My name's Madison Fields. I'm 31 years old, living in a modest apartment in Denver, and I've spent most of my adult life climbing out of a hole I didn't dig. I struggled with binge eating disorder through college. I didn't have the luxury of rehab or therapy back then, just library books, online forums, and a terrifying amount of trial and error. Took me nearly 10 years, but I got better. Or at least I got honest. 2 years ago, I started writing a memoir. Not to publish it, just to process it. Something about putting pain into paragraphs made it feel less like it owned me. I wrote every weekend, every early morning before work. And eventually, it became something I was kind of proud of. Sherry was my cousin, a year younger, always the creative one in the family, even though I was the one who actually got a writing degree. She bounced between gigs, podcasts, blogging, trying to become an influencer. I didn't judge her. We weren't super close growing up, but she reached out one day asking if I'd read her screenplay draft. I said sure, and in return, she asked to read my memoir draft. I hesitated. But it was Sherry. Family. I sent her the PDF. That was 9 months ago. Fast forward to last Saturday, our grandmother's 85th birthday. Big family gathering at a winery in Boulder. I wasn't supposed to go, but Mom begged. Said it'd be good for me to get out more. So I went. I wish I hadn't. Somewhere between the second toast and the dessert table, Sherry clinked her glass and announced she'd just signed a 6-figure book deal with a major publisher. The table erupted in cheers. I froze. She smiled modestly. It's a memoir. Very personal. About healing from binge eating disorder and body dysmorphia. My stomach dropped. No way. But then she said, it's about hitting rock bottom. I even tried to make myself sick with protein bars in college. Sounds crazy, right? That was me. That wasn't just a detail. That was my story. Word for word. Page 38 in my manuscript. I looked around. No one noticed. Not my mom, not my aunt, not even my sister. Everyone was too busy hugging her, toasting her, talking about how brave she was. I walked outside and sat on a bench near the parking lot, shaking. Sherry came out 5 minutes later like nothing was wrong. You okay? She asked. I couldn't look at her. You used my manuscript. She blinked. Don't be like that. I was inspired by it, sure, but I made it my own. I stood up. You literally quoted my own trauma like it was a story prompt. She crossed her arms. Look, I didn't steal anything. You never said it was private. You never even copyrighted it. That's when my mom appeared behind her. Maddie, sweetie, this is a big day for Sherry. Let's not ruin it, okay? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She took my life and sold it, I said, my voice shaking. Mom gave me that look, the one she always pulled out when she wanted me to be the bigger person. She needs this, honey. You've always been the strong one. I walked away. I drove home. And I cried for 4 hours straight. But I didn't stay down. 3 days later, I opened my laptop, dug out the email chain with Sherry, timestamps, drafts, even her response. This is so good, it feels like I'm living it. I sent it all to Ava, my old college roommate who now works in publishing law. She called me 10 minutes later. Her voice was sharp. This isn't just plagiarism, Mads, it's intellectual theft. And if what you're telling me is true, you're about to shake her whole little world. And then she paused. By the way, did you know Sherry's doing a live interview on Good Morning Colorado tomorrow? She's promoting the book. I stared at my screen, the cursor blinking in the document that used to belong only to me. No, I said quietly. But I do now. I barely slept. I kept thinking, maybe she'll slip up. Maybe she'll twist the details just enough that no one will believe her. But I knew better. Sherry's always had a talent for sounding honest while lying straight through her teeth. The next morning, I watched the Good Morning Colorado segment from my laptop, fists clenched, coffee untouched. She looked perfect. Loose curls, subtle makeup. That soft, trembling voice she saves for cameras. It was the lowest point of my life, she said, blinking back tears. I couldn't look in the mirror. I'd binge and then punish myself. Sometimes I'd just not eat at all for days. I once tried to throw up protein bars in a dorm bathroom. I froze. That was my story, word for word. The interviewer nodded solemnly. And this book, it helped you heal? Sherry smiled. Writing saved me, and I hope it'll help others feel less alone. I slammed my laptop shut. This wasn't just stealing anymore. It was erasure. She wasn't just taking credit. She was rewriting the past, my past, making it hers, while I sat invisible, broke, and ignored. I called Ava again. She didn't even say hello. Did you watch it? Yeah, I said, my voice raw. She quoted your manuscript, almost verbatim. I've started drafting a cease and desist. We're sending it to the publisher and the network. I let out a shaky breath. It won't matter to my family. What do you mean? They're proud of her. They're calling her brave. I'm the one making things awkward now. That night, I got a text from my aunt. Just a single sentence. Don't ruin this for Sherry. You've always been so supportive. No, I haven't. I've just always been silent. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Every version of Just Let It Go ran through my head like poison. Until around 2 a.m., when I opened my old email account, the one I hadn't used since grad school. And there it was. The original Google Doc invite I'd sent Sherry, time-stamped, my name at the top. Her email listed under Viewer. And right below it, a comment she left on Chapter 6. This is brutal and beautiful. The part about the candy wrappers under your bed made me cry. My heart stopped. The final published version of her book? Chapter 6 was titled Wrappers. She even kept the damn metaphor. I took screenshots. I compiled everything. Ava and I worked through the next few days, building a timeline. We found out she'd pitched my story as hers 3 weeks after I sent her the manuscript. Meanwhile, my family kept texting. Why are you acting like this? Sherry's doing something meaningful. You've always been the private one. You didn't even want to publish it. You're just jealous. Jealous. That word gutted me more than I expected. Because for years I was jealous. Of her loudness, her confidence, the way everyone bent toward her like sunlight. While I was the quiet one. The stable one. The one who got a thank you text every time someone needed free emotional labor. But this wasn't jealousy. This was theft. I hit my breaking point the following Friday. I was in line at the grocery store minding my business when the woman behind me tapped my shoulder. Excuse me, are you Madison Fields? I blinked. Yes? She smiled. I just read Breaking the Mirror. You're in the acknowledgements. I loved your sister's book. I dropped the carton of eggs in my hand. She's not my sister. Oh, sorry. I just assumed... You were the one who helped her recover? I nodded slowly. Something like that. I left the groceries and drove straight to my parents' house. Mom opened the door with a confused smile. Maddie? What a surprise. Come in. I'm not staying, I said. I just need to ask you something. She stepped aside. Of course. I held up a printed screenshot of Sherry's comment on my draft. This is her admitting she read my manuscript. And here, I flipped the page, is her published version, using my words. Why are you okay with this? Mom stared, expression unreadable. Honey, it's not that simple. No, I said, louder than I meant to. It is. You let her tell the world my pain like it was hers, and now you're acting like I'm the problem. Her eyes narrowed. If you really cared about healing, you wouldn't be trying to destroy her over a few chapters. My jaw locked. She'd chosen. Again. I turned to leave. Don't walk away from this family, Madison. I paused, hand on the doorknob. I'm not walking away. I said, voice steady. I'm standing up, maybe for the first time. Cliffhanger. That night, Ava called. The publisher just responded to the cease and desist. I held my breath. They want to meet with you. Privately. No lawyers. I didn't tell anyone about the meeting. Not Ava, not my therapist, not even my roommate, Nora, who normally knew everything before I did. I just told her I had a work thing. And maybe that was true. Maybe this was business now. But it didn't feel like business when I walked into that office. It felt like walking into a courtroom where I was the only one not holding a script. The publisher's downtown building was sleek, glassy, modern. I was ushered into a quiet conference room by a woman in expensive flats who didn't smile once. 3 people were waiting. A man in a navy suit, a woman with a clipboard, and an editor who introduced herself as Beth. Beth offered me chamomile tea like we were about to talk about flower gardens and not, fraud. She cut straight to it. Thank you for meeting, Madison. We understand you believe there are overlaps between your manuscript and Sherry Lorne's memoir. I blinked. Believe? That's what we're calling this? I don't believe, I said, pulling out the printouts. I know. Here's the original draft I sent her. Here's the comment she left. And here's your published version, with almost identical wording in at least 12 sections. This isn't inspiration. It's theft. Clipboard woman scribbled something without looking up. Beth smiled tightly. We've reviewed the material. Sherry has a different recollection of how things happened. Of course she does, I said. She's been rehearsing her own version of my life for 9 months. The man in the suit leaned forward. What outcome are you hoping for here, Madison? That was the moment I realized. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a silencing. They weren't hoping to fix anything. They were hoping I'd back down. I looked him dead in the eye. I want public acknowledgement. I want my name cleared. And I want this book pulled. Beth folded her hands. That's not feasible. The book is a national bestseller. Pulling it would cost millions, but... She glanced at Clipboard Woman, who nodded. We'd be willing to offer a confidential settlement. A lump sum. No credit. No press. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. You want me to take hush money for my own trauma? It's more common than you think, the man said smoothly. This happens often in memoir. Shared experiences, blurred memories. No, I cut in. What happened here is very specific. It happened to me. And she turned it into a performance. Beth sighed. Madison, be honest. You never intended to publish. You shared your story with a family member. That doesn't make you a victim. It makes you naive. That was it. That word, naive, burned more than anything else had. Because for years, that's exactly what I'd been. The one who forgave, who understood, who didn't make waves, and it got me erased. I stood up. This meeting's over. Beth stood too. We strongly advise you not to take this public. We're prepared to protect our author legally. I stared at her. You should have protected the truth. Then I walked out. I made it to the street before my hands started shaking. I couldn't tell if it was rage or adrenaline or grief, or all 3 stacked on top of each other. I'd come in looking for justice, but this wasn't justice. This was a machine. A machine that didn't care who got crushed, as long as the story sold. I got home to 43 missed messages. Ava, Nora, and, of course, Sherry. But the one that stopped me was a voicemail from my dad. Maddie, Sherry told us everything. You're making her life hell. She's family, she's struggling. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. My legs buckled. That night, I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I uploaded my original manuscript. I didn't pitch it. I didn't pretty it up. I just titled it, The Story She Stole. Then I hit publish on a personal blog I hadn't touched in 5 years. The next morning, I woke up to over 18,000 views. By noon, 70,000. People were commenting, messaging me, sending their own stories of being silenced, dismissed, rewritten. And that's when the email came. From Beth. Please call us immediately. There's been a development. We were not aware of all the documents you had access to. Attached was a single screenshot. It was a scanned contract. Sherry's original pitch email to the publisher. And in it, at the bottom, she had written, I used my cousin's memoir as inspiration. She won't mind. My breath left my body. They'd known from the beginning. They just didn't think I'd matter. They gave me a stage. So I took the damn mic. The moment I stepped into the event hall, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Spotlights, rows of chairs, book banners with Sherry's face printed 8 feet tall, smiling like she'd just cured cancer. And then, right in the center of the stage, a chair. For me. I don't know if it was pity, pressure, or panic, but after my blog went viral, the literary conference organizers reached out. They'd already invited Sherry to speak on a memoir and healing panel, but after my story broke, they added a special segment on ethical authorship and invited me to tell mine. Sherry didn't know. Yet. I sat backstage, knees bouncing, heart thudding like it was trying to punch through my ribs. I could hear her out front, answering questions with that perfect wounded poet voice. I just want to use my pain to help others heal, she said. My jaw clenched. My pain. My story. My name. The coordinator gave me a 2-minute warning. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and took a deep breath. You don't have to go out there, Ava whispered beside me. No, I said. I do. When they called my name, there was a beat of confused silence. Then murmurs, whispers. One person actually gasped. I walked onto the stage, not fast, not slow, just steady. Sherry looked up from her seat in the audience. She turned pale. Hi, I said into the mic. My name is Madison Fields. You might not know me, but if you've read Breaking the Mirror, you already know my life. People sat up straighter. Nearly 2 years ago, I wrote a memoir. Not for fame, not for publishing, just for healing. I shared a draft with someone I trusted. I looked straight at her. She took it. A murmur rippled across the room. I told them everything. From the email chain to the comment she left on my draft, to the live TV interview where she quoted me word for word. I showed screenshots, timelines, receipts. I didn't cry. Not once. But when I read the line about candy wrappers under the bed, the one I'd written during a full-blown relapse, I saw 3 people in the front row wipe tears. When I finished, there was dead silence. Then, applause. It wasn't polite clapping. It was standing ovation applause. Sherry was gone. Slipped out the side door halfway through my speech, just like she always did when things stopped going her way. Afterward, people lined up to speak to me. Not just to say, I'm sorry, but to say, that happened to me too. One woman hugged me so tight I felt something in me loosen. Finally. Later that night, back at the hotel, Ava's phone buzzed. She picked it up, frowned, then handed it to me. You should read this. It was an email. From Beth, my least favorite publisher. After careful internal review, we are initiating a full retraction of Breaking the Mirror. Ms. Lauren's contract has been terminated. We sincerely apologize for the oversight. Additionally, we are prepared to offer Ms. Fields full rights and editorial support should she choose to formally publish her own manuscript. I stared at the screen, mouth dry. You won, Ava said softly. But it didn't feel like winning. Not yet. Because the next day, I woke up to a text from my dad. I hope you're happy. You humiliated your cousin. Your mother hasn't stopped crying. Don't come home for Thanksgiving. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my inbox. Hundreds of messages from readers, survivors, writers, strangers. One stood out. Subject line. You don't know me, but I know your story. I clicked. Inside was a photo, a signed Breaking the Mirror first edition, and a handwritten note inside. For Annalise, my therapist and my rock. Thank you for saving me from myself. Love, Sherry. I blinked, then blinked again. Because Annalise wasn't just any therapist. She was mine, my former therapist. And she had gone missing from my life the exact month Sherry started writing her book. I sat back, cold all over. Sherry hadn't just stolen my manuscript. She'd stolen my therapy sessions. She'd recorded them. Or worse, Annalise had shared them. I don't know what comes next. But if you're reading this and someone ever used your story without asking, I need you to know you're not alone. And you're not crazy for not being okay with it. Some stories aren't meant to be borrowed. And some silences were never meant to be broken by anyone but you. I spent the next week in a daze. Not because I didn't know what to do. Ava and I got right to work. But because I couldn't believe how deep it had gone. My therapist, the one person I thought had held my words with care, had handed them over like they were nothing more than content. Ava called it what it was, a violation of confidentiality, ethics, and law. We filed formal complaints with the state licensing board and the publisher's legal department. Turns out Annalise had quietly relocated 2 months before the book launched. Sherry had paid her under the table. Consulting work, according to a bank statement Ava dug up. I didn't even know you could betray someone that many ways. While the legal process churned on, something strange started happening. I began breathing easier. My appetite returned. I slept through the night for the first time in years. But the real shift? That happened the day I got a certified letter in the mail. Inside was a printed apology from the publishing house. Formal, cold, but clear. They were revoking all awards tied to Breaking the Mirror, donating all remaining royalties to eating disorder recovery programs, and publicly acknowledging me as the original author whose story had been used without permission. It didn't change the past, but it validated it. Sherry's silence after that was deafening. She wiped her socials, deleted comments, made one awkward, stepping away from public life post, then vanished. I figured that was it, until last month. I was at my favorite bookstore in Boulder browsing the Memoir section when I saw it. A new paperback, white cover, no frills. The Story She Stole, by Madison Fields. I hadn't even known it was out yet. My publisher must have rushed it after the court ruling. I picked it up, fingers shaking. Right next to it, a clearance bin. Buried face down in the $3 pile was Breaking the Mirror, Sherry's book. A red sticker across the front. Retracted. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But I just stood there, holding my book in one hand, hers in the other, realizing exactly how far I'd come. It was never about revenge. It was about reclamation. And that night, when I came home, I unpacked the last box in my new apartment. The lease was finally mine, in my name, no one else's. I lit a candle, played a quiet song, and opened my laptop. New doctor, blank page. Not a memoir this time. Just something new. Something mine. And right before I closed the tab, another email came in. From Sherry. The subject line said, "You win." No apology. No ownership. Just 2 words. I stared at it for a long time, then hit delete. Because I didn't win. I survived. And now? Now I'm writing my story. Not for revenge, not for them, but for me. Because home isn't where you grew up. It's the place where no one gets to rewrite you. By Hoktoi Rutra, your voice is yours. If someone takes it, take it back. Loudly, legally, or however you need to. Silence may feel safe, but truth sets you free. And hey, if you've ever had someone twist your story into theirs, or you're still untangling your voice from someone else's shadow, tell me about it in the comments. I'm listening. And if my story hit something in you, you're welcome to stick around. This time, no one's cutting your chapter out.